So the other day, I was in the grocery store picking up some things for the family, and there's this woman in front of me checking out. She had milk, bread, a few cans. I don't even think she had any meat or anything like that. Just a few basic things. Oh, it was like $12 or something. She's in there. She's counting out dimes and pennies and nickels. She didn't have enough. She's hunting around in her purse. She's trying to find a little bit more, and she's all embarrassed. She's trying to hide it, and she's talking about putting something back. And she was a couple people in front of me. I kind of went around and I said, "Hey, do you need a little money to help? I mean, things are tight right now. We all feel the pain of everything." And I ended up, I had a few extra dollars. I helped her out and let her go on her way. She was grateful, but at the same time, embarrassed and ashamed. And we all feel, we've been there. We've been there where we're having to put things back. In fact, I think a few weeks ago, I think you told me you were having to put a couple things back. Just not because you can't afford it. We're trying to budget. We're trying to stay within because we're trying to save money to invest in our own businesses, in our own things. And I saw that, you saw it as well, that debate the other day between Gary Stevenson and Daniel Priestley, the Diary of a CEO. Great debate. It really was very thought-provoking on a lot of levels. When I hear that, I was thinking of that woman going through that and going down in the comments and reading the comments and stuff like that people are leaving. This is the reality. We are all struggling out there to make ends meet. So it's just kind of been a bit of a burden since I saw that to kind of go into that a little bit.
And the majority of people are feeling or have felt in that pinch of the economy or, inflation or something like that.
Yeah, there's millions of people out there that, they don't need all this grand theorizing or whatever. There's just millions of people out there that need real answers to this. And so I just thought it'd be nice to kind of go through like the pluses and minuses of some of this stuff and try to, help work to do our part to kind of come to the bottom of this. I mean, neither one of us, we're middle class. We've come from middle class families. We don't have a lot. We're doing our best to, make the most of what we have to grow, not just, finances, but like mentally. That's it. We're seeking for truth. We're always trying to progress forward.
I thought the debate was well done, and then it kind of struck a chord because I'm feeling both sides. Like, I'm sympathizing for both sides.
Yes, exactly.
And I can get both sides of the coin.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, because a lot of the comments were people that they're just the regular Joe, the 9 to 5, and they don't have desire to be millionaires. They don't. A lot of them don't even want to be entrepreneurs or whatever. Like what Daniel Priestley was trying to put forth. They're healthcare workers. You've been a healthcare worker. We have family that's healthcare workers, firefighters, police, all that. They're just
public servants.
Yeah, public servants, civil servants that are just the salt of the earth people.
You have to have them.
You do. We all have to have them. And they're the ones out there that are making the way and getting, of improving, helping to improve society.
Really appreciated them a few weeks ago, didn't we? Here on the property.
We sure did. We had a fire that got out of hand, and they came out here and helped us.
Brush fire.
Yeah, it was.
Fire. But it would have spread to the neighbors and structures.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Very thankful for them.
Exactly. So
they deserve more than what they have.
Absolutely. Teachers, everybody's just working so hard. Yeah, so Gary Stevenson's side, really, I mean, for me, I hadn't followed him too much. I guess he's really kind of come up recently, but he's really kind of a champion for the people that were like us that we're talking about, for the common people. He's a champion, and for them to to fight against the. It seemed to me like his biggest answer was tax the rich. You know,
Seemed to be the majority of his answer for everything.
right, right.
And
That was
most of the debate was on that subject,
right,
or defending that subject.
right. And you know, first thought, or just to see it on paper, you think, okay, yeah, maybe that would do it. Daniel Priestley was much more just everybody needs to be an entrepreneur and start a business and create more wealth, and that will help the society. He also was saying, don't tax the rich because the rich will end up leaving. It was mentioned that in the UK alone, they're losing 1,000 millionaires every month. Like that's crazy.
That's a lot.
And I understand, as a person that's trying to improve on our lives the most, we just paid a lot of money in taxes. Well, to us, it's a lot of money. Yeah, I guess that's rather relative.
What's the most we've ever paid?
It's the most we've ever paid, and the rich honestly do pay a lot in taxes, whether it's their business or maybe not personally as much, but it's they pay a lot. They pay a lot higher percentage than lower tier people, the middle lower class.
Yeah, well, we'll get into that. But like, I think one of the big things was, as far as like Gary's point of view, not everybody can be an entrepreneur and make a bunch of money, or even be successful entrepreneur.
Or want to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I mean, and it's true. We need public servants. We need retail workers. We need the salt of the earth, people who work 9 to 5. I mean, society wouldn't function without those. So that is true. Like, not everybody can be an entrepreneur. On the other side of the coin, should the people who are being successful and who've been successful entrepreneurs be punished for that and be taxed, the majority of their income just because they've been successful? Would that be the answer to saving lower middle class, or just the average public servant or retail worker or 9 to 5 job? I mean, would that be the answer? And Gary seems to think, yes, that would be the answer.
Yeah, I think he was saying like anybody over 10 million that makes over 10 million or something, which, yeah, that's a lot of money. But I think there's a big danger to that on several levels. First off, in the United States, 55% of employment comes from small businesses.
And a small business is labeled as 500 employees or under.
Correct. Exactly. And so that's going to be, a lot of these people that are making that kind of money. And if they up and leave the country, and I guess part of Gary's viewpoint was, well, they should be taxed even when they do leave the country. And maybe that's true. Maybe, avoiding that stuff isn't exactly a good thing. But on the other hand, in our experience, what happens to that money is it gets passed on down the consumer, right? Like we end up paying more for the products and services simply because they're having a harder time making their profits.
It gets absorbed into the government that way as well, because, well, it's going to raise inflation because all of a sudden there's a great influx of wealth, or more of an influx of wealth than would have been before. And then second of all, everything gets taxed, whether it's your income that you're receiving or whether it's what you're buying and consuming. There's a tax on that. If you upgrade your living conditions, there's a tax on that. So it's basically absorbed and into the government, I would say, a big part of it.
Yeah, it does. Well, and so something that was never brought up was the fact that, okay, if you tax the rich, that money is not going to the poor and middle class, right? It's not being redistributed. It's not automatically redistributed.
No,
it goes to the government
first.
And one thing that...
And then you're assuming that the government's trustworthy and they're going to redistribute it to the poor. So
that doesn't really work out.
Taxing the rich is giving it to the government first and then hoping that the government will be a trustworthy, upstanding organization that passes it
Yes.
down to the lower
Yes.
class or lower middle class, however you want to put it.
And we've seen that on a personal level because we were missionaries in Peru. And so we heard a lot of stories of money, large amount, like millions of dollars, being sent to some random small village for them to have infrastructure or schools put on their property.
Or food to be
And
given.
by the way, a lot of that was our tax dollars from the United States going over there for that. Okay, so this is what a perfect use case example.
We've lived in some of those small villages, so
Yep.
we've seen it.
Guess what? The village never actually gets it, or a very small amount of it. It pads the pockets of the people all along the way, and that just goes to the very, the inefficiencies and bloatedness of government. And that was one of the things that
Any government.
yeah. Daniel Priestley was advocating for less government, which I would personally agree with. We don't need more government with more waste of money. I'd rather see a much leaner, more efficient government with less regulation to allow, and for that matter too, like if we're talking about taxing the rich, okay, that's one thing, but I would rather see less, way less, or no taxes on all the civil servants.
Right, yeah.
Like that would be a better
think-
answer to me.
Yeah, I would be okay with, the public servants not paying tax. I mean, I feel like that would be a fair way to do it. They serve the public and give back that way. I mean,
And everybody else's taxes going to that is a way of helping to compensate for that.
But again, that's just assuming that you're trusting the government to.
Yeah, exactly.
Another thought too is that if you can go online and look at the IRS income taxable table and see if you make this percent or this much, how much percent of your income is going to be taxed.
Mm-hmm.
And the lowest percent of income, so the people on the poverty level, are being taxed 10%, while the absolute richest people are being taxed 37%. So yeah, the people who make the most money are already being taxed 37% of their income. That's a large percent.
Mm-hmm.
So nobody, during the debate, it wasn't even brought up how much the rich are already being taxed, and they're already being taxed 37% of their income.
Which their income is a whole lot, their 100% is a whole lot more than ours.
Yeah.
So they're being taxed, they're paying more than we make in a year. Way more.
Well, they're being taxed way more than any of us make in a year. But I mean, so how much more are we talking about taxing them? Are we talking about taxing them another, bumping it up to 70% or something? Because that literally kills incentive.
Why would I would quit wanting to improve my life and try to make a little bit more
Or grow
money to
your
get by,
business.
or grow your business or whatever, right? Because what's the point?
And there's the debate of free enterprise, and taxes. Plus, what we're talking about has been done in history. If you study history, it hasn't gone well in history. You can study models in history, and then and you'll find out exactly what it turns into, which in short is a socialistic government.
Yeah, I know. Even recently, the last few years, France established what I think they called the ISF, which was a wealth tax, and they ended up, canning the whole thing after a couple of years because so many wealthy people left the country, and we see the same thing in the United States, like
People moving to Costa Rica.
or people like leaving California or New York, where you have the most taxes. They're leaving those areas for states like Florida and all that don't have tax.
Florida, Texas have seen huge influx.
And that's just simply because you're not gonna. It's just human nature. You're going to pay as little as possible.
You're going to want to keep what you earn.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
work
just,
hard for it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, as it is, a large portion of our year goes to paying for the taxes that we do pay.
Yeah.
No matter the level you're at.
Yep. I mean, another one of Gary's arguments was that he's using the pie method, in that if you're not familiar with the pie method, it's basically where there's only so much wealth in the world and everybody has a slice of the pie, and the extremely wealthy people have a larger slice of the pie. So they're taking away some of the pie of the less wealthy people or the poor people. And that's assuming that the pie method is true. Whereas, I tend to think that wealth is something that you create. When you create value or you create a product, you create wealth that goes along with that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so that depends on your train of thought of that. But to me, wealth is basically a dollar bill means nothing. It's the belief that it holds value behind it. So when you create something or out of thin air, like you create a product or you create a service to sell and people buy it, that's assuming that you're creating some kind of value that is adding to the pie instead of just saying that there's this much wealth and you can only have a piece of it.
Yeah.
So
that's what Daniel Priestley was trying to put forward, is that we need to create more value. And I think one of the words he was using a lot was entrepreneurship, which, I mean, it's a good word, but I think a lot of people misunderstand the word. And so when entrepreneurship is said, they're just thinking about just creating a business instead of it being more. I think I would classify it more as mindset, or at least that's what Daniel Priestley was trying to give out. That you need an entrepreneurial type mindset to help you along your way.
So basically, you're saying that to have an entrepreneurial mindset, you're wanting to create value, whether that's creating value in the company that you're placed in and just doing a really good job and creating more value, or creating value for a company that you start or a product that you're trying to sell.
Yeah. I mean, and I think it starts with creating value in yourself too, right?
Or believing that you are capable of creating value.
Yeah, and improving yourself to create more value. That, to me, is the entrepreneurial mindset, is creating value. It starts with yourself, which starts in your mind. And mindset, skill set, tool set, right? It starts up here.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why we make it a lot of emphasis on words and stuff, because that's how you communicate what's up here out to people, is through words and providing value to other people through that.
For instance, you could be a UPS driver and you could figure out how to do your route really efficiently, and so that you're doing your route in like 5 hours versus 8 hours because you're doing it really efficiently. You're running to each doorstep, you have all the packages placed out just right, and chronological order or whatever order is going to have you do it faster, and then you get your job done more efficiently. You've added value. You've added hours onto your day. You've added value to the company. You've created that.
And maybe even you've observed things along your route that you can there's ways to sell your information of observing, say, who has a pool or who doesn't, and being able to sell all that stuff to somebody else, like stacking values so that you're able to get more done and more accomplished.
Mm-hmm. Carrying dog biscuits in your pocket or something.
Also, going back into the video, something that was brought up was that how 60% of millionaires are self-made. So that comes from that entrepreneurial mindset, or having, again, it starts with you as a person, growing yourself, improving yourself, providing value to yourself first, and then putting that mask on yourself. Then you can help somebody else. You're in a better position to do that. And 60% of millionaires are self-made. I understand. Not everybody wants to be a millionaire. Not everybody wants that. There's a lot of people out there that they're happy in their public service job, and that's what they want to do. And it should be easier for them to pay their bills on time and to have a home that they can end up owning and so forth. And that the system has made it very hard to do that. Part of the thing is you've got to be able to budget, right? Budgeting has helped us immensely.
Spend less than you make.
Yep.
Pay yourself first.
Yep.
There's principles you can follow with whatever you're making.
Yeah, and maybe we should discuss that further in another video or something, but budgeting has just really helped us, because it's not enough just to think you've got it all figured out in your head, which is what I did at first, right? Oh, I keep track of it. You really got to keep track in detail. And when you see that month to month, then you're able to see where you can cut, where maybe you need to spend a little more, and so forth. And then, you're able to take what's left over and use that to, again, improve, going to that entrepreneurial mindset. You're end up using that to improve yourself. You improve yourself, then you can help improve others around you and provide value. Providing value leads to more
Growing the pie.
Exactly, growing the pie and more income coming in so that you can improve on your situation. That's how I see it. So, one of the other takeaways from the debate really is it basically represents two different ways to solve a really immense and very real problem that is out there worldwide right now. Ultimately, I would say that sitting around and waiting for someone else to change it for you, to change your future you.
Most people are waiting on government to make it better.
Well, that's what's going to happen if you're going to. First off, you're going to have to get it to a point where that's what the government does, and then you got to sit around and wait for it to trickle down to you. I would just encourage people to take their future into their own hands by, first off, improving themselves, and then passing that value, in growing their own value, pass that along to others. And there's never been a better time in history. Yes, we pay a lot. We go through a lot. There's a lot of bills, a lot of things, but there's never been a better time in history to get your value out there, through the internet, through communication, transportation out there. Your value is never easier to learn. Think of everything you can do to improve yourself, to learn things, to learn more skills, and then be able to, in turn, get that value, increased value out to others. There's never been a better time.
Yeah, it's super easy now to look up anything on the internet and find out what, a million different viewpoints about any kind of subject you want. You can find alternative viewpoints, you can find mainstream viewpoints. And you also could be a voice if you have an opinion or value to add. I
encourage you to do it. Don't just expect everybody else to do it. Don't expect everybody else to fix your problem. Take your problems into your own hands.
Don't be an armchair complainer.
Yeah. It's easy to hide behind the computer screen and voice your little opinion, right? But let's all try to improve ourselves and get to that point where our value can grow and we can pass it on to others. Hey, go out, watch the debate. It's long. It was over 2 hours.
We'll link it below.
Watch it on 2x speed, whatever it takes. Get a summary, at least, of it. And we'll link it below. Yeah. And, tell us what you think in the comments. That's our take. That's how we see it. And, both sides had very valid points. And I think there was a little miscommunication, more misinterpretation. We probably need a better word than entrepreneurship. But I know what Daniel Priestley meant when he was saying that. So just encourage everybody I would encourage everyone out there to just go out there and provide value to the world and just see what happens. Let's break it down.